goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, when you see me take these up to the podium, I don't know what to say. Thank you, Amber. Where do I start? Where do I start? Can you feel the love in this room? Can you feel the love in this room? This is what's different. This is what's different. I just know from our campaign than any other campaign for this office. Love, faith, hope. We're not selling fear. We are bringing hope. And this is about a revival of faith and a revival of patriotism in Washington State. We're making that happen. I knew this campaign would be blessed because the only reason I'm here is because of our Creator. That is the only reason I'm here. And people have said, you cannot get elected when you talk about Christ or you talk about your faith. And I tell you this, I am who I am, and I don't hide from my faith.
Come on.
You see me, excuse me.
It's all good.
You saw, well, my big brother, Dan Norton.
That's amazing. Is that cool?
It was more like 50 years. I'm a 63-year-old man now, so you can see how good that man looks. That's what I want to say. And let me just tell you guys, yes, and so East Oakland, California, Mom moved us here when I was just a little boy, and I didn't have a dad or a father figure in my house. My mother sacrificed her entire life for her children. She gave everything for us. And we started off in poverty, welfare, food stamps. But my mother, a woman of faith and hope, she was that role model. She raised me never to be a victim, but to always have hope and faith, to have resiliency, self-respect, personal courage, never to hate others or blame others, but to be accountable for my own actions. And yes, I've fallen, but she raised me to have resiliency to get back up.
Right.
Not to wear my color or my race on my sleeve, again, as a victim, but having faith in something much greater and much higher. I am here by the grace of God, and I want you to understand the power of faith, the belief in America for what America stands for, that nation that we are all born into privilege as citizens of this great nation, that we only need one flag to represent all colors, all races. This is America. We are brothers and sisters under that flag. This is not words from a speech. This is something that I believe and I feel, and that we must spread and bring to everyone, because the segregation that we are seeing now, dividing ourselves along racial lines, we create new ways to divide ourselves when this nation was created on a belief that we can be different and it is okay. That we come from different backgrounds and it's okay. That we can have different belief systems and live differently and it's okay. E pluribus unum, from the many one. That was the original true definition of diversity. We were never intended to be anything different than who we were and how we were created. That is the beauty and the hope of America, and we must bring that back, and we will bring it back to Washington State, and we will start with this election and this primary. That's what we're doing. And so, my friends, as we approach Memorial Day, understand this, please. We must never forget, freedom is not free, and that this nation was born in the blood, from the blood of patriots. And I've said this many times, you know, the words of Thomas Paine, one of my favorite characters, heroes from our past. Thomas Paine was not a founding father, but he was a founding patriot. Thomas Paine put pen to paper, and he inspired the battle for independence. He inspired men and women to come back and continue their service in a time when people were giving up and deserting then General Washington. Our freedom came from hope.
Yeah.
It came from a belief in something much greater, one nation under God. That was the hope that was to be America. These are the times that try men's souls. The summertime soldiers and the sunshine patriots in a crisis such as this will shrink from service to their country. But those who stand with it now deserve the love and thanks of all men and women, said Thomas Paine. This is such a time, for such a time as this. You know where I'm going with that, huh? These are the times that do try men and women's souls, that try the souls of patriots. But let's stand strong as winter soldiers, because no matter what they throw at us, no matter what they do, no matter what they say, we must have hope, and we will rally together. We will stay strong, and we will stay resolute, and we will stay righteous. We will not go low. We will not go dirty. We will not call names, because we don't need that. We don't need to assassinate another person's character. When we do such a thing, that's a reflection of our character. You will never hear me call names or slander. There is no need. We will articulate our position, because our position of conservative values to say that we support the rights of parents. We will protect the innocence of our children.
Yes.
We will keep our streets clean and safe. We believe that our seniors who have earned their place and have worked hard their entire lives deserve peace. And a community that they gave all to live in should be able to live in that community safely and securely and not be taxed out of their homes. That schools should be a safe place to learn, that we will strive for academic excellence. We will refocus our efforts on ensuring that children leave those institutions with a future because they have learned, not been turned. And for children like myself who had a role model, who had someone who'd spent their time, who gave their time, who invested their time. This is love. This is something that resides in all of us. This is why we fight, because we are good. America is good. And we will not let others take that from us. This is not about politics. This is about people. This is not about party. This is about humanity and human decency and civility. And this is worth fighting for. This is what I believe in. America. And so, my friends, we will stand strong and resolute together. And in our policies, we are bringing common sense to Washington State. We are saying that in our policy on law and order, they call public safety, our plan came out last August. And so as they come out 30, 60 days ago, and they squabble about whose policy is better, I ask them to step back and look online to birdforgovernor.com and see real strategy with action to say that we must hold those prosecutors and those judges accountable to stop that door from revolving and sending criminals back on the streets to reoffend. We will bring accountability. We will bring the rule of law back to Washington State. There is nothing wrong with supporting the men and women of law enforcement who put the badge on and put that gun on and they go out to protect and to serve. There is nothing wrong with that. We must bring law and order back. And there are ways to do it, and we have brought forth solutions. We have technology that we can utilize. tracking systems that are already proven to be working right now in Pierce County. Drone technology that we could use to multiply the efforts of our law enforcement. Recruiting and retention policies, positions, and efforts so that we can have licensure reciprocity so that any law enforcement person from any state in the union can transfer to Washington State, and we will incentivize that transfer with bonus programs. Isn't it not better to redirect funding to recruit good quality law enforcement officers when we have the lowest number of law enforcement officers of any state in the union? Is that not worth the investment to bring back law and order to our state? I say it is. I say this is the time right now. So you will not hear me say, well, I will tell the chief of the state patrol to start enforcing the law, because he already knows to enforce the law like any other law enforcement officer. We will bring real solutions. Oh, my friends, the time for career politicians is gone. The time for career Americans is now. And for our school system, where it is number one in our budget, 44% of Washington state budget, billions of dollars goes to an education system where only 50.9% of all students met grade level standards in English and language arts, and only 37.7 made grade level standards in mathematics, and only 42.7 made grade level standards in science. But yet we are paying $18,698 per student and graduating them at a rate of 83%. Something is wrong when we are investing in a system that fails us. That is common sense to say it is time to bring accountability, not to throw more money at a losing proposition, but bring accountability, bring a strategic plan, make a strategy, and hold those school systems accountable for performance outcome with a focus on academic excellence, education, not indoctrination. That is common sense. And so for a solution with action, we will say, we will make mandatory, in my education reform plan, we will make mandatory that every school district in Washington state will produce a strategic plan that starts with this three-legged stool prong that says we will focus on the student, we will focus on the family, parents, grandparents, guardian, and we will focus on those educators who want to get back to the fundamentals of educating students. We will give them the resources, and we will create a strategic plan from the classroom up, not from the establishment down. We will understand and make mandatory assessment tools that says we will understand that every child learns differently. We will bring a scientific approach to learning and reading. We will understand that structured literacy works, and we will close those gaps, because you cannot do mathematics if you cannot read. Common sense. Common sense. But we must have accountability. We will no longer fund bad education policy with good taxpayer money. And I will share with Attorney General Ferguson so that he understands.
Which one?
The last one standing, who would claim to be an enforcer of law, who has prevailed over a state of lawlessness, who is responsible for an increase in rape by 51%, an increase in murder by 98%, an increase in property crime by 73%. That is his record. You wonder why our insurance rates are so high right now, and you want to talk about the correlation of affordability of living in Washington state. Well, it's directly correlated to the lack of public safety, the lack of leadership in law enforcement. Bob, as the chief law enforcement officer, apparently has an aversion to enforcing the law. This is not me calling names or insulting anyone. This is me bringing statistical facts. We are number one in the nation for retail theft. There's a statistical fact. We are number 3 in the nation for auto theft, but Mr. Ferguson chose to sue the automakers for making cars too easy to steal instead of enforcing the laws that are on the books. That is a wrong strategy. I gave you my strategy. I gave you my solutions with actions. And so for Mr. Ferguson, who will use the law, weaponize the office, I say, this is not your time, sir. This is not your time. I think we are short attorneys in Washington State, so perhaps public defender would be a better position. And I would encourage him to support our efforts in that office. And I say that with sincerity. Because true, we are short public defenders in Washington State. And we have 13 individuals who are assigned by the Bar Association to choose which counties get how many public defenders. And so truly, people don't talk about this, but we don't have enough public defenders. And if you cannot prosecute someone if they do not have a public defense, this is also an issue. We speak of law enforcement. I want you to understand something. We have one crime lab in Washington State, and that is at the Washington State Patrol. So there's another fix and a solution that we must bring, because when we had that Blake fix, when they said, okay, we're gonna make drugs illegal again. So you arrest someone for drugs, and then you cannot prosecute them because you cannot process the drug through the crime lab because you cannot get it tested and therefore you see what's going on. So it sounds good, but it's broken, and no one talks about these things. I'm a solution person. But let me get back on economics. Because we have the fastest growing demographics of poverty. And that demographic is our seniors. 65 years and older can no longer afford to live in Washington State. And then those seniors who have worked so hard for their retirement can no longer live in Washington State. But yet we have a legislature every single session will come back and say, we're going to take that initiative 747, which made a cap of 1%, and raise it to 3%. No more taxes. We will not tax. My first term of office, I will guarantee you we will not raise taxes 1 cent in Washington State. No more tax increases in Washington State. Minimum 4 years. So day one, here's what we're going to do. We're going to conduct, or I will initiate a third-party audit of all state programs and all state offices on day one. On day one. Friends, I want you to understand, I'm a behavioral scientist, organizational psychology. I'm not a clinician. Corporations bring me in to bring such doctrine as Lean or Six Sigma to understand performance and bring performance improvement solutions to organizations so organizations perform more effectively, more efficiently. I teach leaders how to be better leaders. I've written leadership methodology. I've taught leadership methodology at the university level. I've lectured at the UCLA, WSU, in multiple national federal laboratories across the nation, and I can go on different corporations and different countries. Can you imagine actually bringing the skill sets into Olympia to make Olympia more effective, more efficient, more proficient in how it functions, the billions of dollars that we will save, and those funds will go back to the citizens through what we call tax relief. Could you imagine that, giving money back to taxpayers instead of taking from you? There is so much I can say, and there are so many policies I can share with you, because again, the difference is solutions with actions in detail without just talking points. And let me get to homelessness, and then were we going to do questions and answers tonight? Is that part of it? It's up to you guys. I don't want to take up too much time. But homelessness. Homelessness. I was enjoying the auction, to be quite honest with you. And God bless you all. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, right? The selflessness that was displayed to fund our campaign. And when I say our campaign, y'all make no mistake, this is our campaign. I am not alone. I am not alone. I am not alone in this. I told you how I came to be here. By no accident. I am not alone. This is not a me thing. This is a we thing. Make no mistake about it. But you talk about selflessness. The governor position, the governor office is a position of servant leadership. The office is a position to serve we the people. Article 1, Section 1, power is inherent in the people. And government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed, and it is the government's job to protect and to maintain the individual rights of citizens. We must not mistake that or forget that. Servant leadership. This is a republic, a constitutional republic, which is unique among all nations of this world, to say that when our founders declared their independence, obtained their independence, and created that beautiful document known as United States Constitution, they determined that that power in that document, that they would give power back to the citizens. And so when they said that they declared their independence for a concept of freedom and independence, they truly meant it. And they codified it and they put it in writing and they empowered and endured that to a legacy that we inherited and we forgot, because they stopped teaching civics in schools, and you see what they're trying to fill it in with. So when we stop indoctrinating our children and we start educating our children, we will not buy into this narrative that we are prejudicing against anybody, because that's not what America stands for. We are educating our children. But we understand that America is a nation of love and inclusion and diversity, and we don't run from that word diversity. But we don't embrace a word such as equity. We embrace a word known as merit. That if you want something in America, you work for what you want in America. It does not matter your race, creed, color, or religion. But we do understand there is a disparity, and we will speak of it. And I will talk about color every single day of the week, twice on Sunday if need be. I'm not going to let one party talk about color all day long when I am a Republican, the party that ended slavery, the party that fought for women's rights, the party that passed civil rights, and the party that will ensure parents' rights. I will claim true I am a constitutional Christian conservative and a Republican of Washington State. Can you feel that? When a group of individuals walked away from a party known as the Whig Party and declared a new party called the Republican Party, remember what that was about, even though we weren't there. But I want you to understand that bit of history. They walked away from that big popular party called the Whig Party, and they created something new. How dare they? So we're going to take it back. Oh, I thought about it. Oh, I'm fed up with the establishment.
That's right.
And no offense to anyone, but take it as you will. We are not the people, we the people, that continue to feed a system that says, you who have the money control we the people. That doesn't play anymore. That's done. That's done. You keep your money, we'll take our country back. We'll take our country back. My friends, so much for us to be proud of, and so much for us to preserve. I think I'll end there, but I'll answer a few questions, and then we'll just keep rolling because we're having so much fun. I'm going to go to my big brother, Dan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And became governor. What plan have you got to work on those three counties, Pierce, King, and Snohomish? Because without that, you aren't going to win if you don't have something to attack those three counties on.
I love it. And so, Dan, if you didn't hear, said, Governor Inslee won the election, not because of he had the populist vote, but because he had the urban vote, the centers, the population centers, King, Pierce, and Snohomish County. So that is why in our strategy, before I even initiated my campaign, we wrote out a strategy, and I started campaigning in the inner city of Seattle,
Come on.
where I first started off before we moved to North Seattle. I started campaigning there amongst black and brown folks that Republicans stopped going to since the 1920s. And so we started bringing and communicating that conservative message of bringing back education to schools, bringing back law and order to those communities that are most compromised by a lawless society, bringing back economic growth and development to communities that are most impacted by a lack of economic opportunity and development. They want the same thing we want. And the Seattle City Council moved from progressive to common sense just this last summer. So the transition is happening, and our strategy of going to those communities and engaging those communities who have never had a messenger with a message of common sense are listening to us. I had the founder of Democrats for Diversity and Inclusion come to me after 2 meetings and say, I will be canvassing for you in the Central District of Seattle, Washington. That is a measure of success for our Bird for Governor campaign. They counted us out in King Pearson Snow, and our strategy, well, need to say 72% of a supermajority at that convention. Most of those delegates came from King County, Pierce County, Snohomish County, and unity throughout the entire state of Washington. So it is strategy, planning, and precision and execution. Dan, great question.
Come on.
Yes, yes, sir.
So Washington is a sanctuary state in a number of
Boo.
ways.
Yes.
We have for illegals, for abortion.
Yeah.
But it's not, I think it's well known that it is a sanctuary state for the gangs.
Yeah.
And what is your plan to address all three of those?
Oh, I love it. So, number one, in day one, we will declare that Washington State will no longer be a sanctuary state for illegal immigration. That's day one. That's day one. And then we'll move to support an initiative that I know will be forthcoming from, Representative Jim Walsh on passing an initiative that'll support federal enforcement of our federal laws. Imagine that, enforcement of our federal laws and cooperating with ICE. So again, this is not lacking compassion or targeting individuals. What we're saying is simply this: you don't invite the entire town to come to dinner in your house when you cannot feed your own children. We're not feeding the citizens of Washington State when we have a homeless population. I never even finished that discussion, Anya. I'm still tracking with you. And then when we're talking about gangs and law and order, I've been formally trained in joint special operations task forces. The common sense of forming joint task forces is something that is not strange to me. I formed them, I've worked with them, and I understand how to pull task force from different agencies. The DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, leads the initiative of drug enforcement in Washington State. They are the primary agency that has led the seizures of drugs and have targeted narco-terrorists in Washington. That was a specialty of mine, targeting and interdicting narco-terrorists, aka drug dealers. Would you rather have a governor that has actually done that, or someone who still thinks they're a police officer with a super suit? That is not a disparity, that is just a fact. My experience is on targeting drug dealers for real, not just enforcing laws. And I respect all law enforcement professionals. But this is a time for strategic leadership to target these criminal organizations, not the time to take over the jobs of law enforcement officials. We can use more police officers, so I would encourage people to go back to the streets and do that. But leave the big stuff to the experienced professionals. So I have the strategies. I've actually done that. I've actually targeted not only terrorists, but narco-terrorists. Human trafficking is a problem in Washington State. So what?
This is all driven by the gangs.
Exactly, and those were the next words coming out of my mouth. And so when you have these cartels, which by the way, we have at least 3 operating in Washington State. The Sinaloa cartel operating in Northeast Washington, the Jalisco New Generation operating in Southwest Washington, and the Beltran Lleva cartel operating in Northwest Washington. This was not a secret to me when I was last working Special Forces Intelligence, where I retired from. So I just could not work on American soil because of the title from which I operated, but I worked with the agencies who worked in Washington State. I understand that we have agencies working here. My friends still work in those agencies working here. I understand what they do. I know how to do it, and we will get it done. So, yes.
I'm so sorry.
But please, jump in.
I think it's really important for you to focus on this, that there's more than just some initiative that we're all gonna sign.
Yeah.
Jim Walsh.
Yeah.
Like, as the governor,
Yeah.
you actually have the power to have ICE come
Yes.
in and do these things, and have federal law enforcement.
It's a matter of utilizing federal agencies. I don't have the power over them, but I have the power to initiate. And those agencies are ready to jump in and do their jobs. They just need that chief executive officer to let them do their job, to cooperate and form those joint task forces with them. And I know which agencies to partner with and how to utilize them. So just to that, in terms of a solution, I plan on growing the Washington State Patrol. So let me give you a solution. Instead of telling the chief of the State Patrol to do his job, enforce the law, which every law enforcement officer knows that, let me give you a solution. I will grow the Washington State Patrol. I will create a fusion center larger than has been tried, because there's a joint fusion center. I'm not trying to give away secrets, but there is, and it's not led by the Washington State Patrol. Ours will be. We need to bring those officers to federal training, which is in Georgia, get them federal training, and then I'll send them to Virginia, and I'll let them learn where that is and what it is at a different time. I don't do what other people do and share secrets. I did have someone ask me what my relationship was with the Central Intelligence Agency, and it was simply this. Yes. That we work with different agencies to accomplish strategic outcomes. That's just common sense. But those agencies are not supposed to operate in American soil. We will utilize the agencies that do operate in American soil to get the outcomes to protect citizens of Washington State. We have a northern border crisis with human trafficking that no one talks about. We have a port crisis. China is a threat to the United States of America, and China is a threat to Washington State. China is a threat to buying up our land, our agricultural land, our property. China is a threat. There's a reason why, and you guys will learn, and we'll put this on our website in the next week. I worked in Taiwan against the One China policy. I've targeted China working throughout the Asia Pacific, stealing technology, proliferating technology, and peddling and precursor product for methamphetamines through South America, coming across the border. I was on our southern border, not for a photo shoot, but to visit my friend Mark Lamb, Sheriff Lamb, who's America's sheriff. I know he did a show. He's a personal friend and his family, and we were doing updates. I know border security. I taught border security. There's that. So we're bringing a difference. I understand how to do it, and I can go into detail. I'm probably spending too much time to go into detail. I think you mentioned something else. You mentioned abortion. Did you mention abortion?
Yeah.
I think you did.
Illegal immigration, abortion.
Yeah, so,
And then the gangs.
Yeah, and so the gangs are part of the criminal element. So abortion, let me just say this. Life begins at conception and ends with natural death. This is not me taking no, thank you, but I want you to understand, that is science. That is not me pushing my faith in anybody. That is science. That is a fact. Washington State has a law, 9.06.100. There's a law in Washington State. So when people try to tie me to, well, you're pro-life, or I think everybody's pro-life. Right? I mean, I think women who say, oh, I'm here to preserve my reproductive rights. Well, there's a law in Washington State, and under Article 3, I have an obligation to enforce the laws of Washington State. But instead of fighting amongst ourselves, why are we not bringing programs into those at-risk communities to protect women from finding themselves in the position of unwanted pregnancy? Why are we not streamlining a pathway to adoption?
right.
Why are we not bringing that prenatal care instead of vilifying young women or vilifying women, but bringing that care so they can hear that heartbeat?
That's right.
You see, there's things that we can do together. You want to talk about protecting women? Let's protect women. Let's protect life. It's not taking a stance against anything. It's taking a stance for something. Let's stop the nonsense and stand for something. They're not going to tie me down on something that I'm out of my authority says I have an obligation to protect rights. So it's a difference. They try to play that. I'm no one's fool. So we'll do one more, I think, and then I think, am I supposed to go? We're done? Okay. Yeah. Becky, go ahead.
Well, I just would love you to state your position on election integrity.
So I'm going to be writing a bill on election integrity and presenting it. And so my position on election integrity is simply this. It doesn't matter what your party is. All citizens deserve an election system that they can believe in and that they can trust. And so with that being said, everyone must clearly identify themselves as a U.S. citizen prior to being able to vote. And the most secure way to do that is in-person voting. And in doing so in person, paper ballots are the best ballots. Doing it in one day is not unreasonable, but should be expected. Not using machines to count votes, but using human beings to count votes and then verifying and validating those votes. Cleaning up voter rolls every 30 days and holding those auditors accountable if they choose not to with law, because my reform bill will have accountability by punishment if they are not doing their job.
Clean up the voter rolls.
So, and then getting rid of the motor voter, because when you get a driver's license, you are not going to have to say, well, maybe I should opt out, or do I have that option? Do I know to do so? No, we're not. If you want to vote, then you will register to vote, because that is something people have died for, to give you that civil liberty. So you will register to vote. And we're not going to force anybody to do anything. This is America. So there is my election integrity bill that I will present. I will be presenting an education reform bill. I will be presenting a youth crime bill, because we have a problem right now in Washington State where young people are committing crime like it's no tomorrow. And our laws right now do not support law enforcement to be able to apprehend, investigate, and bring accountability to young people. So now we have these criminal organizations that are using young people to commit crimes, and they can't even arrest them or investigate them. And then that is now a new way of committing crimes and getting away with it and continuing to. Why has no one talked about this with all these public safety plans? And you have these former sheriffs, you have these attorney generals, and no one has talked about youth crime when it is off the charts in Washington State. Am I wrong in any of this, anybody? You see what we're talking about. How could they not see this when every police officer in this state knows what I just said is a major issue, if not the major issue? You give them back police pursuit, which we just did with those amazing initiatives, then they will do their jobs. You hold those judges and prosecutors by bringing forth what I call, well, a judicial watch, to where we will rate those judges and prosecutors based on their prosecutorial discretion or judicial discretion. If you're releasing criminals back out to reoffend, you will get a low rating. Come election time, we will remember, because I, in my office, will publish your judicial rating, your prosecutorial rating. And maybe you won't get elected again, because people want public safety. They don't care what your politics are. You see, were those solutions I just gave you?
Yes.
Why haven't we heard that from those law enforcement professionals? Common sense solutions. Just give me a minute, Robin, I'm almost there, because I think this is important. I'm getting fired up now. We're talking solutions. Oh, I'm going to get you, young man, right? Oh, no, I got you. I got you. No, you got credit. You got credit right here. I got you. So let me say this. We talk about economic development, how can we develop economically if we are attacking small business owners? If we are overtaxing small business owners, we bring this CARES Act. By the way, this is going to be in the ballot. We're going to be talking about those initiatives on the ballot that we must support. We'll talk about 2066, the natural gas. Who does that? But this is that climate change ideology that is killing us. That is killing us. And so what I'm saying is this. How can we talk about economic development when you are doubling the cost of building in Washington State? You are doubling the cost of apartment complexes, apartment units. It costs us twice as much to build an apartment unit, but you want to talk about housing units and spending billions more taxpayer dollars to build affordable housing that is mostly for homelessness and illegal immigrants, and not really for citizens of Washington State that are struggling to make ends meet. But they're unaffordable because you are over-regulating builders and developers. They can't build those units.
Right.
Are you seeing what I'm saying?
Yes.
So in that, what they call the 2021 energy codes that they just passed March 15th of 2024, I don't know why they call it 2021, but it is. We're going to fix that because I'm going after that. And we're going to roll that back to, well, let's go back to 2010.
Yeah.
We're going to go back to 2010. And so where you can build energy efficient homes and apartments and for less than half the price, and then we'll make housing affordable, because right now young people cannot graduate from college or high school and afford an apartment by themselves, and our seniors cannot afford to live in this economy. So there is a solution with action. Is that not equity for young people and equity for seniors? There's some equity for you. There, I figured out where to use equity in our policy. How's that for equity? So we're going to support small business owners by lowering payroll taxes. We're going to stop weaponizing labor and industries against small businesses, because we need to lower those fees, because small business owners pay for state fees, county fees, and city fees, but no one talks about that. I can go on and on and on, because when you stimulate economic development, you must be talking about supporting small business owners. Why? Oh, maybe it's because 50.7% of all people who work in the state work for small business owners. How's that for a statistic? Common sense solutions. I'm not a career politician. I'm a career American, and I've owned a small business. I've had to make payroll. We call those quarterlies. Anybody with me? That's right. Look at those hands. Quarterlies. Yes, please.
What are you going to do about depression and suicide rates?
Mental health.
Very high.
I got you.
I have a good buddy who has told me that he has been going through some stuff in his life, and he doesn't know if anything will happen to those issues. And I just want to know, because how do I put this? He has come to me telling me that he has decided that life isn't worth it anymore, and I have tried